why God allows waiting, and what Jesus did during silence. Waiting is one of the hardest spiritual lessons, not because it is dramatic, not because it is loud, but because it is quiet. Waiting tests us in ways suffering often does not, because suffering at least feels meaningful. Waiting feels unclear, unproductive, unfinished. We live in a world that celebrates speed, quick answers, fast results, visible outcomes. If something takes too long, we assume it's broken. If progress slows, we assume we're failing. If God feels silent, we assume we've done something wrong. But Scripture tells a very different story. Because Jesus, the Son of God, lived much of his life waiting, not rushing, not forcing outcomes, not filling every silence. And if Jesus waited, then waiting cannot be a mistake. Waiting is not a detour, it is the way. One of the greatest misunderstandings in faith is believing that waiting means God has stepped away. But throughout Scripture, waiting is often where God steps closest. Before David became king, he waited years while still serving under Saul, the very man trying to destroy him. Before Moses led Israel, he waited decades in obscurity. Before Jesus began his ministry, he waited 30 years in quiet, ordinary life. 30 years for 3 years of visible work. That ratio alone should change how we see waiting. God is not inefficient. He is intentional. What looks slow to us is often careful. Jesus and the discipline of silence. Jesus was never in a hurry. That should unsettle us, because urgency is often how we measure importance. But Jesus did not measure life by speed. He measured it by alignment. Before choosing the disciples, he withdrew to pray. Before performing miracles, he often waited. Before the cross, he entered deep silence. Even when people begged him to act, he paused. Why? Because love does not rush. Wisdom does not panic. And God's timing is never anxious. Jesus knew something we often forget. Not every moment requires movement. Some moments require depth. Silence is not empty, it is formative. We fear silence because silence removes our distractions. In silence, there is no noise to hide behind, no productivity to validate us, no progress to point to. Silence reveals what we trust when nothing is happening. This is why waiting feels uncomfortable. It exposes us. In waiting, our motives surface. Our expectations are stripped. Our dependence shifts. We begin to notice how much of our faith is attached to outcomes rather than God Himself. Waiting asks a difficult question. If God gives you nothing new for a while, will you still stay? One of the most damaging beliefs we carry is this: if God wanted this for me, it would have happened already. But Scripture repeatedly shows that delay is often protection. Closed doors save us from paths that look right but would harm us later. Silence guards us from decisions we are not ready to carry. God does not delay out of indifference. He delays out of wisdom. He sees consequences we cannot see yet. He sees future versions of us we are not prepared to be. What feels like withholding is often preservation. What waiting produces that movement cannot. There are things God forms in waiting that action cannot produce. Waiting builds patience without bitterness, trust without control, faith without visible evidence. It reshapes how we define success. Instead of asking, "When will this change?" waiting invites us to ask, "Who am I becoming while I wait?" Because God is far more invested in formation than acceleration. Jesus in Gethsemane, waiting without answers. In Gethsemane, Jesus prayed, He asked, He pleaded, He waited, and heaven was silent. No angel explained the plan. No voice reassured the outcome. No shortcut was offered, yet Jesus stayed. This moment teaches us something crucial. Silence does not mean abandonment. Silence can mean trust is being perfected. Jesus trusted the Father even when clarity was withheld. If Jesus could trust in silence, so can we. Waiting separates trust from control. We often confuse faith with certainty, but biblical faith is not knowing what will happen. It is trusting who is present while you do not know. Waiting removes our illusion of control. It forces us to admit, I cannot make this happen on my own. And that is not weakness, it is alignment. God does His deepest work when we stop trying to force outcomes. The question waiting asks us. When waiting stretches on, it asks us one honest question. Do you trust me, or just the result you want from me? This is uncomfortable but necessary, because faith that only survives when prayers are answered quickly is fragile. Waiting strengthens faith until it can stand without guarantees. If you are waiting right now, if you are waiting for clarity, for healing, for direction, for breakthrough, you are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. Ask not, when will this end? Ask instead, what is being formed in me that could not be formed any other way? God often does his deepest work when nothing seems to be happening. Closing reflection. Waiting is not wasted time. It is sacred space. It is where God rewires our trust, deepens our faith, and aligns our hearts with his wisdom. Jesus waited. The saints waited. The prophets waited. And God was faithful every time. If you are in a season of waiting, remain, not because it is easy, but because God is present here too. And presence is never delay.